maybe some success stories where culturalization has enhanced a game's global appeal. Do you have any examples like where maybe it wasn't that there was a problem, but a decision was made and it made something blow up or anything of that nature? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have happened where I can't talk about them because they never became public domain. But I can give you an example because it's what I call proactive culturalization. So this is a process of looking for ways to basically enhance the experience for a certain market or for a specific demographic if we feel that there's basically that's the goal of the company and the goal of the team. And so I'll show you this one example right now. This is from the game Temple Run 2 that I worked on. And so what they were seeing was they were seeing a strong interest in Mexico, for example, and more active players in Mexico who were playing the game. And they said, hey, what if we did a special live ops around Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead holiday, which is a very significant event in Mexico. And so we said, we can dress up the environment in a way that makes it respectful of the holiday, using like the marigolds and the calaveras, the photos of the past relatives and the candles and whatnot, and put those throughout the environment. And then we also changed the two avatars, the male and female avatar, so that they represent people from that culture. And that's what we did, obviously working with people from that culture to make sure that we were doing it correctly and respectfully. And so we went ahead and released this version of the game specifically for Mexico for that holiday, and it was wildly popular. It's just the sales did a huge spike, and people thought this was super cool. It was actually a light touch. They didn't have to do a massive amount of overhaul of the environment. They just added some layers to it to dress it up here and there. And it had a huge positive response. And so it was actually so popular that the team did another version for the Holi holiday, the Festival of Colors in India, and they saw a similar very positive response. And so we are looking for ways often that how can the experience, it's not just about the negative stuff and making sure that we don't cause an offense, which tends to be the majority of what I'm asked to do. That's what I call reactive culturalization.
Gotcha.
But there are a lot of times where we can make little changes that actually makes the experience a lot better. Sometimes it's really blatant, like this, making a version for Mexico, but oftentimes it's something much more subtle. It could be something like, for example, when I worked on the Dance Central games, my job with the Dance Central games was looking for body language and gestures that could be potentially problematic. There goes my virtual background. So the gestures and the body language as you're dancing, because in the Dance Central game, you're following the avatar and they're dancing around. And so the gestures, of course, can be very culturally specific, like extremely culturally specific, and we don't want to make that a problem. And so, for example, there's one dance where a character is doing this gesture, which is, for most people say that's rock on.
Right.
It's the rock and roll gesture, unless you're from Texas, which you probably say it's
or the Bible Belt, Georgia. My upbringing, I don't think it today, but my upbringing had a very different interpretation of the goat and
exactly. But
and satanic stuff and
exactly,
and all that sort of thing.
Which is why it became associated with rock and roll. But in Italy, it's called the cornuto, which actually means I'm sleeping with your wife. So that's something like you flash.
Here in Argentina, it's the same.
Yeah. So there you
yes, it's the same.
Is that why your eyes were getting big there off camera?
Yes. Well, just like I gave a lecture at Facebook headquarters a few years back where I had to point out to them that their corporate gesture is the middle finger in some countries. So we have to be so looking at things like that and just seeing what works and doesn't work in different cultures. And one of the things that happened was in the early versions of the game, the character, when the dance would end, the avatar on the screen would always do this, and they'd hold their pose like this. Doing that gesture is called the Mosa in Greece, which is the same as the middle finger. And so you don't want to flash your hand like that. Sorry, anyone in Greece. But so then they said, okay, we won't do this. We'll have them point instead. No, you can't do that because pointing is a problem in Asia, especially East Asia. You don't point at people. It's actually a problem in several countries and regions. And they said, then we'll just do a fist like this. And I said, okay, you can do a fist, like just a closed fist. Don't put it up like this because that's called the power fist, and that has other connotations. So make sure it's forward like this, and you're fine.
Wow. Like I said, it feels like a minefield. Wow. But it's amazing that you have that encyclopedic knowledge to like how One of the questions I'm going to ask later is, how do you develop that encyclopedic knowledge? Don't answer now. In fact, right now, I think we're going to take a quick little break.
Become Elite Geek on Patreon for ad-free episodes. In the meantime, we'll be right back with more from the Elite Geeks podcast. We'll be right back.
Before we went to that break, we were talking about wins, or I guess more specifically, success stories in culturalization. So it was really inspiring to hear how those thoughtful culturalization thoughts and projects and perspectives can lead to some worldwide success, especially there in Mexico. And a little side note, we love Temple Run very much, so much we bought the board game because we love the app so much. And I'm almost upset because it being Mexico-based, I never got to see that cool version of it. But I'm really glad that it had success there in Mexico, because I think global reach isn't just about good business, right? It's about making meaning with your products, with the communities, with the people. So I'm wondering,